Hello, my name is Caleb, and I will be doing a presentation on why cybersecurity is important, and both personally and professionally. To begin, let's define cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is about maintaining the security and integrity of IT resources, and frankly, everything in an organization. What this really means is, can only some people, only the right people, access something? Is it definitely the file you wanted, or the data that you wanted? And is it available to you as needed? Usually, this is thought of in a business context, but I believe it should be thought of more in a personal setting, as even the personal side of things has an impact on business, and who wants to get compromised, really? Let's go over a couple of misconceptions, three to be precise. I'm nobody. Who would target me? Uh, most cyber attacks in the modern day are not targeted. Only the ones that are high profile and expensive, meaning you're paying hackers or the hackers are going to make a lot of money off of you, are targeted. This really means they are exploiting known vulnerabilities and just shotgun approaching the whole situation. Just trying to get the lowest common denominator if possible. I don't need to use unique passwords, usually for the same reason I'm nobody who would target me. Single points of failure are not good for security. If you have one password across, let's say, two places, company A, company B. Company A is a bank, company B is Facebook or something. You use the same password on both, same email on both. If Facebook gets compromised, which they have in the past, this is a real thing, your passwords may have been leaked. And if they were leaked, these hackers will often take what are called password lists and try them against the emails on all the different websites. And there's a good chance your bank is going to be one of those targets. A single compromise on a relatively minor site could cause bank issues, and we don't want that, really. Third, my VPN protects my internet traffic. That's not how VPNs work. I've heard a lot of misinformation around the usage of VPNs. They are not a perfect tool, they are just a tool. The misinformation usually goes, they're securing my internet connection for doing things. And while VPNs are capable of preventing things like man-in-the-middle attacks, where someone sits between you and the internet and just steals all the data, those are extremely uncommon. That is a targeted attack. If you're somebody who would be targeted, a VPN may be helpful. But for the average Joe, there are some benefits. Most of the benefits are around avoiding regional restrictions, which is helpful. It's just not really cybersecurity in a lot of ways. How does this affect you? According to an IBM study back in, I believe, 2023, 60% of organizations' breaches led to an increase in prices passed to the customers. That's sucks. That sucks for anyone who is trying to buy from any of these companies. These price increases, just because they're directly passed on to the customer, will lead to higher prices even in areas where cybersecurity attacks did not happen. Because if one guy's charging more, their competitor may be like, well, we could make some extra margin there. We'll take a little extra. And to further that, the average cost of a data breach in the US is $9.44 million as of 2022. That's a lot of money. And remember, 60% of that, on average, is being passed on to the end consumer. That sucks. Additionally, it just sucks to have your identity compromised. It's just really inconvenient, as anyone who has had their identity compromised will know. We should do our best in at least our personal lives to try to not have our identity get compromised. Let's go over a couple of common threats. First one is phishing. I'm sure most people have heard what phishing is or experienced it, but to recap, generally, it is when an attacker puts some sort of malicious file or link in a message that is sent to you. This can also be having you call someone to confirm some information, like a bank account number or a social security number or something like that. That can often lead to issues. Just a quick way to solve a lot of phishing: if you see something from like your bank, go out of band. You can call the bank directly on the phone number that is provided with your card. You can go to their site. Don't click on any links in the message. If you have questions, directly call on a number that you find not in the email. Don't do anything in the email. Then we got malware. We got a few different kinds that I'm going to talk about because they're kind of the ones that are important to talk about, in my opinion. Ransomware is a piece of software that goes in and encrypts everything on your computer and then charges you to unencrypt it. It's really expensive. You don't want it. It's just not a good time. Spyware, like keyloggers or screen recorders, do just that. They log your keystrokes, which can then be used to steal passwords, bank information, stuff like that. And screen capture software can do similar things. Generally, that's how a lot of identity theft actually happens. And then adware, arguably the least directly harmful, but is often call it a gateway into worse malware. Lots of malware is delivered through advertisements. It's actually so much, and adware will increase the chance of that. Then we got data breaches. Data breaches are the stuff that's outside of your control. Some employee at Facebook or Amazon or wherever did something wrong, or didn't catch something, or one of a million other options. They are compromised and your information is published. There's not much you can do about that directly, with the exception of not using the same passwords on all your device or on all of your accounts. This would be a case where that's that bank B getting company B getting compromised. That's what's going to happen. Well, eventually. Sometimes these take some time. You can use sites like Have I Been Pwned to check if your account was associated with any data breaches, and I would highly recommend doing it. Now, how do we create strong passwords? I'm talking a lot about you shouldn't use the same password on everything. So what are some things to do to create strong ones at the very least? XKCD made a very good comic, which I will leave up on screen for a bit so you can read it. But the short of it is humans are not very good at making passwords the way that we've been doing it for about the last 20 years, 30 years, however long it's been. Substitution is highly ineffective if it is predictable, so things like swapping a O for a 0, things like that. Super easy to guess. Most password crackers have it just built in to test for that stuff. And also, it's really not that easy to remember. Gibberish is great. It's even harder to remember because it's nonsense. In theory, there shouldn't be any pattern to it, which is why the recommendation is made for passphrases a lot of the time. Several common words that are completely random can be highly effective against password crackers. The examples that were made in the comic is the first password would take about 3 days to guess, and I can confirm that it's actually quite a bit less than that. Our hardware has gotten much faster in the last couple of years. But the second one, correct horse battery staple, as a password, is immensely hard to guess, mostly due to the length. And in a way you could actually make it even more difficult is through random substitution instead of more common substitution. This could be doing an exclamation point instead of an O, or a percent sign instead of a T. Passphrases are very effective and easier to remember. Now, let's talk about a slightly easy way to keep your passwords. Password managers. Password managers are pieces of software that store and often will autofill your passwords. They can also generate passwords. We'll talk about that in a bit. Some of the recommendations I would make would be things like Bitwarden, 1Password, Keeper, and KeePass. My personal recommendation would be Bitwarden. It is free. It is open source, which means people much smarter than me can go in and check that everything is secure. And if you're technical, you can host it yourself, which means you're not relying on anyone else's security but your own to keep your password safe. 1Password and Keeper both cost money. They seem fine. I have personally used Keeper, but it costs money, and Bitwarden does not if you don't want it to. There are paid versions of Bitwarden, but there's no super big difference. Then KeePass. KeePass is all fully locally hosted on your computer. It's like it's just an application. It is for the most paranoid. Because it's all on your computer, it never touches the internet. It is completely encrypted. It's also less user-friendly because you'd have to only do it, on your computer. How do we use password managers securely? So, first, don't make up passwords for any of the sites. Use the randomized generator that comes with most password managers. You just click random. It gives you nonsense, like full gibberish, 20, 30 characters, basically meaningfully uncrackable. And you don't have to remember it because the password manager remembers it for you. You do need to remember 1Password. The vault password, which is not always what it's called, but the main password for your password manager. That needs to be as secure as possible, with the benefit that you only need to remember that one password. My recommendation is go with a passphrase, 5 words long or something like that, to give the best chance that it will be as secure as possible. Next, use the autofill feature. It's honestly, my biggest recommendation is just it's more user-friendly than typing in the password. You just click autofill, it fills in the fields. It can prevent you from being hacked through some man-in-the-middle and keylogger attacks. It's imperfect, but it's better than nothing, and it is easier, frankly. Also, using MFA on your password manager can be extremely helpful for anything but basically KeePass, because KeePass is only on your computer. Actually, no, do it on all of them. MFA, as we will get to in one moment, is able to make sure that unless you have your device, can't see it, you can't log in to the password manager. And that might be a little bit inconvenient. I'm sure everyone has their story about MFA being terrible, but the additional security it provides is more than worth it in the grand scheme of things. So, what is MFA? Let's cut to a video now. MFA, or two-factor authentication, is a security measure which requires multiple forms of authentication to allow you to sign into an account. This can be something you know, like a password or passphrase, something you have, such as a phone or tablet, or something you are, such as biometric information, which could be retina scans or fingerprint scans or facial structure recognition. All right, now that you're back, let's just cover a couple of different types of MFA. My personal recommendation is a rolling code generator that's some of them have push notifications. This would be your Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, or one of the other variants. You can also use what are called security keys. They are little USB sticks that you plug in when you want to log in. Some of these also provide NFC, which means you can use it on your phone by just holding it near it, assuming your phone supports that. There's also SMS and calling. It's not that hard if you're being targeted to break that. I would call that the least secure. It is an option. It's better than nothing, but SMS can be text messages. Text messages can be intercepted with some effort. Let's go over some safe computing habits just before we're done. Be careful when you're downloading or clicking on anything. If you feel at all concerned, use a tool like VirusTotal to scan files or URLs. They can catch some malware or applications with malicious behavior. It's not perfect, but it's not nothing either. Additionally, use an antivirus. If you're looking for just reasonably okay and free, Malwarebytes and Bitdefender have been pretty alright with me. You only need one of them, don't install both of them. And Malwarebytes and Bitdefender also have paid options, which you can decide whether or not that's worth it for you. So, let's recap. Passwords. Use something you can remember. Passphrases are recommended. Just a string of words with maybe random substitutions. Use a password manager. That way, every site has a unique password, and it is all controlled through a singular secure password, hopefully with MFA. On that, have MFA on for everything that has an option for it, and just practice safe browsing. Be careful. Be careful, be cautious, do your best, and hopefully have an antivirus. All right, well, have a good rest of your day.